I want you to picture a scene for a second.
Okay.
It's the 16th century. You're standing in the royal court of the Emperor Akbar. It's opulent, marble floors, silk draperies, that smell of incense in the air.
Right.
But underneath all that luxury, there's tension, real intrigue, whispered conversations behind pillars, and everyone is vying for the emperor's favor.
And right in the middle of it all is Birbal?
Exactly. Birbal, the witty advisor who seems to solve these impossible problems, not with the sword, but with, like, a riddle. Or even a perfectly timed silence.
It's a classic image. I think anyone who grew up with Indian folklore knows that archetype perfectly. The clever underdog who outsmarts the powerful generals and the jealous courtiers.
Totally. But now, I want you to hard cut. Swap the silk robes for a button-down shirt.
Okay.
Swap the marble pillars for, I don't know, open-plan cubicles and fluorescent lights. And instead of the emperor on a throne, it's a high-stress CEO.
Right at the head of a boardroom table.
Demanding to know why the key 3 projections are off.
The scenery changes, but that tension, that stays exactly the same. The stakes, the pressure, the human dynamics, they haven't really evolved all that much in 500 years.
And that's the fascinating premise we're wrestling with today. What if that ancient brand of wit, that specific, Birbal energy, isn't just a bedtime story?
What if it's a manual?
What if it's actually a survival manual for the modern workplace? We are doing a deep dive into the book, The Corporate Birbal, Modern Wisdom for Corporate Success.
And before you roll your eyes and think, oh, great, another business book.
Yeah, another one telling me to hustle harder? Pause.
This isn't about working until your eyes bleed.
No, this is about something the source material calls situational intelligence. It's about working differently.
Right. And that is the core mission of this deep dive. We've combed through the book, the anecdotes, all the analysis to figure out one thing. How do you bridge that gap?
The gap between being knowledgeable, knowing your tech stuff, your spreadsheets, your code, and being wise.
Because, as the author points out, those are two entirely different ballgames.
Oh, and let's be honest, we've all worked with people who are incredibly smart on paper. They have the degrees, they have the technical skills, but they absolutely crash and burn when it comes to office dynamics.
Oh, constantly. You see it all the time. The person who writes perfect code but then insults the product manager in the stand-up meeting.
Yes. Or the marketing genius who has the perfect strategy but can't get the budget approved because they don't understand the timing of when to ask.
Exactly. And this book, while it's rooted in the Indian corporate context,
Right.
which, by the way, is notoriously high pressure and fast-paced, it argues that the Birbal mindset is the missing link for professionals everywhere.
So let's get into the machinery of this. The book draws an aggressive line between knowledge and wisdom.
A hard line, yeah.
I feel like we use those words interchangeably, like they're synonyms. Oh, he's very knowledgeable, he's very wise.
We do, but the author says, no, they are different beasts.
So what is the difference then?
They are totally different beasts. Think of it this way. Knowledge is the input. It's what you learn in a classroom, a textbook, or a boot camp. You can take a course on financial modeling, and boom, you have knowledge.
It's a commodity.
It's a commodity. You can buy it.
Right. Anyone with an internet connection can get knowledge. You can Google how to run a pivot table, and you have the knowledge in 30 seconds.
Exactly. But wisdom. The source defines wisdom as the ability to apply that knowledge effectively in real time, under pressure, and often with incomplete information.
So it's not taught in a lecture hall.
No, it's cultivated through observation and mindset.
It reminds me of that famous old saying, knowledge is knowing a tomato is a fruit.
Right.
Wisdom is not putting it in a fruit salad.
It's funny, and it always gets a laugh, but it's actually a perfect corporate metaphor.
How so? Break that down for the office context.
Well, think about it. In the office, knowledge is knowing the data says sales are down 5%. That's a fact.
It's a tomato. It's technically a fruit.
It is. But wisdom is knowing you probably shouldn't bring that up 5 minutes before the boss leaves for a long weekend unless you have a solution ready.
Oh, yeah.
Or knowing how to frame that data so it looks like an opportunity for optimization rather than a total disaster. That contextual awareness, that is the defining corporate Birbal attribute.
So it's about reading the room.
It's about reading the room, yes, but it's also about emotional regulation. The source emphasizes that the defining trait of this persona is just calm. Most people in a corporate setting operate in a state of low-level panic. They vibrate at a frequency of stress.
The permanent fight or flight mode. I think we all know that feeling. The Sunday scaries,
Yeah.
the Monday mania.
Precisely. An angry email comes in, panic, react, reply all with a defense.
Yep. A deadline moves up. Freak out.
The Birbal archetype does the opposite. They respond, they don't react, they absorb the shock, process it through logic rather than ego, and then they make a move.
I love that distinction, logic versus ego. Because how many meetings have we all sat through where the decision being made wasn't about what makes sense for the business?
But about whose ego needed to be protected.
Exactly.
Too many to count, and that's where the wisdom comes in. The book argues that a corporate Birbal looks for the solution, whereas the average worker looks for the excuse or, the scapegoat.
It's a shift from why is this happening to me to how do I solve this puzzle?
Right. It detaches the personal feelings from the professional problem.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
If you walk around the office acting like Birbal, this, legendary genius who speaks in riddles and is always the smartest guy in the room, aren't you going to be incredibly annoying? I feel like people might just want to fire you for being arrogant.
That is a very real risk, and the source actually addresses this nuance really effectively. The goal isn't to perform intelligence. It's not about showing off or making others feel small. Remember, in the stories, Birdle wasn't valued because he was loud or because he boasted. He was valued because he was effective.
So it's quiet competency.
It's judgment. It's having the presence of mind to see what others are missing because they are too busy hyperventilating over a crisis.
It's being the person who says, wait, why are we doing it this way when everyone else is on autopilot?
Yes, it's not about being the star. It's about being the navigator.
Speaking of autopilot, that leads us right into the next big chunk of the book, which attacks the busy trap. This whole battle of smart work versus hard work.
This is a classic debate.
It is, but I feel like corporate culture still heavily favors the hard worker. You know the type. First one in, last one out.
Oh, yeah.
If you aren't sending emails at 9 p.m., people question your commitment. We glorify the grind. But this book seems to suggest that's a fool's game.
It does. It distinguishes between the busy employee and the effective employee. The source argues that many hard workers are essentially running on a hamster wheel. They're expending massive amounts of energy, they are sweating, they are exhausted, but they aren't actually moving the needle. They're mistaking activity for achievement.
That is such a painful realization for a lot of people. You can work 60 hours a week and actually accomplish very little in terms of real value.
So what does the smart work version look like then?
Is it just delegation? Is it just being lazy and getting someone else to do it?
No, and that's a common misconception. The Birbal approach isn't about laziness, it's about root cause analysis.
Okay.
The book details this methodology. If you are constantly putting out fires, you are working hard. You're a firefighter. You feel productive because the fire is out.
Sure.
But the corporate Birbal asks, who is lighting these matches?
Ooh, that's a great line. Who is lighting the matches?
Right. If you find the source of the fire, maybe a broken process, a bad vendor, a communication gap between two departments, and you fix that, you stop the fires forever.
That is smart work.
That's smart work. It's maximum impact with minimum distinct effort over time.
It reminds me of that old story about the mechanic who charges $10,000 to fix a machine. He just taps it once with a hammer and it works.
And the customer says, you charge $10,000 for one tap.
And he says, no, it's $1 for the tap and $9,999 for knowing where to tap.
That is exactly the corporate Birbal philosophy. It's about leverage. And I imagine this is crucial for preventing burnout, which is an epidemic right now.
Absolutely. This is for your survival, for the listener's survival. If your only strategy for solving problems is, I will work more hours, you will eventually hit a physical limit. There are only 24 hours in a day.
You cannot scale hours.
You can only scale strategy.
Which brings us to the most complex variable in any strategy, other people.
The human element.
Specifically, talking to them. The source makes a pretty bold claim here. It says that most corporate disasters don't happen because people can't do their jobs. They happen because people can't communicate.
It goes even deeper than just clarity, though, right? It frames communication not just as a soft skill, but as a weapon, or maybe a shield.
Right.
And interestingly, the most powerful aspect of this tool, according to the book, is silence.
Silence.
Which is so counterintuitive for a podcast where we literally talk for a living. We hate silence.
I know. In radio and podcasting, silence is dead air. It's a mistake, but in a negotiation or a disciplinary meeting, silence is power. The source underlines that the corporate Birbal knows when to speak, what to speak, and this is the bolded underlined part. what absolutely not to speak.
That what not to speak part really resonates with me. I'm thinking of times I've seen someone just dig their own grave in a meeting because they couldn't stand the awkward pause. The boss asks a tough question, nobody answers immediately, and this one person just starts babbling. They usually end up promising something they can't deliver just to fill the void.
It happens constantly. It's the nervous fill. It's insecurity manifesting as noise. The source suggests that by mastering silence, you avoid unnecessary conflicts. You let others reveal their cards.
And you earn respect.
And you earn respect. If you are the person in the meeting who only speaks when you have something valuable to add, people lean in when you finally open your mouth.
Scarcity creates value. If you're always talking, your words are cheap. If you rarely speak, your words are gold.
Exactly. In this framework, communication isn't just exchanging information. It's a tool for power and stability. It's about being intentional.
Which brings us to the arena where power is the actual currency. Office politics.
The minefield.
Now, usually when career books talk about office politics, they fall into two camps. Either it's evil, avoid it, stay pure, or...
Here is how to be Machiavelli and stab everyone in the back.
Right. This source seems to take a third path.
It's a very pragmatic path.
Yeah.
The book essentially says, wake up. Politics is gravity. You can't say, I don't believe in gravity.
It's just there.
It's there. It's happening whether you participate or not. It's holding you down or keeping you in orbit.
So that advice, just keep your head down and do good work, is bad advice.
The Corporate Birbal would argue that is a dangerous strategy. If you keep your head down, you don't see the axe swinging toward you. You might produce the best work in the company, but if you don't understand who needs to see that work or who feels threatened by that work, you might find yourself sidelined.
Okay, so what's the strategy then? If we aren't ignoring it and we aren't becoming evil schemers, what are we doing?
The strategy is protection through awareness. You need to map the system. You need to know where the power actually lies, not just what the org chart says. Who listens to whom? Who influences the budget?
Who holds a grudge against whom?
Yes. It's like Birbal in the court. He wasn't trying to overthrow the emperor, but he knew exactly which advisors were jealous of him and which guards were loyal.
And that knowledge protected him.
Precisely. And the distinction the source makes here is between being political, which implies manipulation and self-interest, and being politically aware.
Okay.
Being politically aware just means you know where the landmines are so you don't step on them. You aren't using that map to hurt people. You're using it to navigate your team safely to the destination.
That's a huge relief, honestly. I think a lot of listeners hear office politics and just feel gross.
Yeah.
But reframing it as situational awareness or navigation...
It makes it a professional skill, not a character flaw.
Exactly.
It is absolutely a skill. And frankly, it's a responsibility. If you want your good ideas to survive, you have to know how to navigate the system that approves them. You cannot play the game if you refuse to learn the rules.
So let's say we know the rules.
Yeah.
We're navigating. But then the pressure cooker turns on. It's the end of the quarter. The client is screaming. The product is broken. This is where most people crack. What is the Birbal protocol for high-pressure decision-making?
The book offers a rule of 3. It sounds deceptively simple, but in the heat of the moment, it is incredibly hard to execute.
Okay, lay it on us.
1, think first. 2, then speak. 3, then take action.
Okay, you're right. That sounds basic.
Yeah.
Think, speak, act. Who doesn't do that?
Under extreme stress, almost nobody. Think about our biology. When the pressure hits our amygdala, the fear center, it hijacks us. We reverse the order.
We act first.
We act, we panic, we click buttons, we change things. Or we speak, we get defensive, we blame others, we shout. Then, after the dust settles, we think, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
That's the react versus respond thing coming back. We do it backward.
It is. The source warns that emotional decisions are almost always bad decisions. The Birbal archetype inserts a micropause.
I'm lost.
Even if the building is on fire, they take 3 seconds to assess the exit. That pause is where wisdom lives. That pause is what separates a leader from just a chaotic element.
I can see how that commands respect, too. If everyone is running around with their hair on fire and one person is just sitting there thinking, that person automatically becomes the leader in the room.
Which is the perfect segue to the next section. Leadership.
But here's the kicker.
Yeah.
The book talks about leadership, but it explicitly says you don't need a title to be a leader. You don't need manager or director in your email signature.
This is the concept of leadership without authority. It's a huge topic in modern management. The Corporate Birbal builds influence, not just authority.
Can we unpack the difference?
Hmm.
Because a lot of people think they can't lead until they get the promotion.
Authority is given to you. It's your job title. It's, I am the manager, so you must listen to me or I will fire you. That's brittle power.
Right.
Influence is earned. It's, I trust this person, so I want to listen to them. Influence travels sideways and even upwards, not just down.
So how does a Birbal earn that influence? Especially if they don't have the badge.
By being the signal in the noise. By being the person who stays calm when others panic. By being the one who solves the root cause. But there's another specific tactic the book mentions that I think is critical.
Okay.
How you handle mistakes.
Oh, mistakes. The corporate world has a weird relationship with mistakes.
Yeah.
Usually the strategy is hide the body.
Exactly. Shred the evidence, delete the log file, hope nobody notices.
Yeah.
But the source promotes a growth mindset. It argues that Birbal didn't hide errors. He used them as leverage for learning. The book states it clearly. Mistakes are inevitable. Repeating them is a choice.
Repeating them is a choice. That's heavy.
It's about ownership. If you screw up and you own it immediately, you don't blame the intern, you don't blame the software, and you say, here's why it happened and here's the system I'm putting in place to ensure it never happens again, you actually build more trust than if you pretended you were perfect.
That's so paradoxical, though. We think admitting a mistake makes us look weak.
But it actually proves you are strong enough to carry the responsibility. It proves you are real. And most importantly, it proves you are safe to follow because you aren't delusional.
People follow leaders who deal with reality.
Not leaders who live in a fantasy world where nothing goes wrong.
Right. Transparency builds influence.
Yeah.
Covering up destroys it.
So when we step back and look at this entire profile, we aren't just talking about a set of life hacks. We're talking about a character upgrade.
It's an operating system upgrade.
Mm.
You're going from worker 1.0, who is skilled, hardworking, but reactive and easily stressed, to Birbal 2.0, who is strategic, calm, and wise.
And I think the value for you, for the listener here, is pretty stark. The corporate world is messy, it's unfair, it's illogical, it is full of conflicting personalities. If you only rely on your technical skills, your ability to code in Python or design in Figma or balance a ledger, you are going to hit a ceiling. Or you're going to burn out trying to code your way out of a political problem.
You cannot code your way out of a personality conflict. You need wisdom for that. You need that situational intelligence.
Exactly. You need to know when to be the tomato and when to be the fruit salad.
I am never going to look at a tomato the same way again. Before we wrap up, I want to circle back to the very beginning. We talked about how knowledge is what you know, but wisdom is who you are.
It raises a really provocative question for everyone listening.
Right. So here is the thought experiment I want to leave you with today. Imagine you walk into work tomorrow, but the company has stripped away your job title. They've taken away your team. You have no direct reports. They've even removed your laptop and your specialized technical tools. You have nothing but your mind, your voice, and your presence.
The question is, would you still be a leader?
Would you still have the wisdom and the influence to lead the room, purely based on how you think and how you speak? Or does your power disappear when your title does?
That is the true test of a corporate Birbal. Influence that exists independent of authority.
Something to chew on during your next Zoom meeting while you're on mute? Thanks for diving in with us.
A pleasure.